All right, guys, we're back in the studio, but we are still talking about data center. In fact, as Roland was talking about the enterprise agreement, we're going to have some more details on that and allow to make sure you fully understand just how valuable that program can be in just a moment. But right now, I want to talk about intent-based networking in the data center. Got two awesome guests with me. Danny, I'm not going to say your last name because I can pronounce it, and TJ, we agreed, is how I was going to get to say your name, because as an American, I can't do the right guttural sounds. But guys, welcome.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank
nice to see you, man.
Yeah, I've enjoyed both of your work and the work of your teams for quite some time. Danny, let's start with you. In terms of intent-based networking when it comes to the data center, but in general, really, how do you define it?
It's a great question. I think it's one of those more nascent terms right now, right? Everybody's trying to figure that out.
Trying to figure out if it's real.
Yeah,
right?
so I think the best way I explain it to folks is I look at intent-based as almost the evolution of automation. So if you think about as an industry, we've been getting pretty good across the board at being able to automate moves, changes, day-to-day things. Yeah. But what we never really did was complete the full life cycle of automation. And there's a ton of time that needs to be spent on the troubleshooting and the compliance and making sure that the intent of the network is actually being adhered to.
Sounds like more of an operations kind of focus.
It is, and so the best way to summarize it, there's three things to remember, Rob.
Okay. All right.
This will be easy for you, man. You got a pen?
I don't, I have a fake one. Here, I'll use my Apple pen. Good.
So the first step is translate. So we try and understand what the business intent actually is, but then translate that down into IT policies that can get pushed out to the infrastructure.
Okay.
The second piece is we have to activate it. So how do we automatically push all that policy out to the infrastructure across the board? The switches, the load balancers, the firewalls, everything in the network that needs some config. Okay. And then the last piece, and I'd say this is kind of the keystone of where Cisco is really, really unique right now, is that assurance side. So how do we assure that the original intent actually stays intact?
Yeah, so translate?
Translate.
Activate? No,
activate.
It was activate, okay, and then assure.
And assure, yep.
Okay, so, because I was trying to think of an acronym, which is the only way we remember anything around here.
It could be bad. It might.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I was like, maybe I shouldn't go there. Well, we talk about the building blocks of what makes up intent. It sounds like you're saying what some of those things are. Those are the elements that feed into this. But I think the most important part is that insurance piece, because I think many other companies have gotten the first two, perhaps in various ways, but it's really circling back around and feeding it back into the system so there's a closed repeating loop.
Absolutely.
Is that the right way to think
That's why I tell guys, I'm like, you should be whether or not Cisco or not, this is what customers should expect from their vendors, and this is the new bar. It has been raised.
I like that. All right, TJ, you were nodding your head there, and so I'm assuming you agree. Did Danny say it the way you would have said it if we didn't have him with us?
Danny uses the fantastic nice words, but but I totally agree. It's the assurance part up levels the conversation that we've been having about networks, about fabrics, to the whole new level, right? I like the analogy that I've been starting to use with the Minority Report movie. Okay. And if you actually know the movie with Tom Cruise.
I went and rewatched it because we were getting some new references.
It's actually really amazing because you have these precogs that are laying there in a pool with wires attached to their head, and those wires feed into a computer, and the computer runs mathematics to come up with a warning before bad things happen. And that's exactly what we're trying to do when we're trying to bring assurance into an ACI fabric. We want to warn people about things that are going to happen in their fabric that are not intended to happen before they happen. So we're not waiting for packets to flow through the network. We're mathematically creating a model that says, this thing that you've just done, we think you meant to do something else. Or these trust zones, these security zones, where you think no traffic could flow. Right. Well, maybe nobody's trying. But if they did, it would actually work, right? And that's what we're adding as a next layer of assurance on top of an ACI fabric.
Now see, that's interesting because I think the big thing, and if we don't realize this kind of thing, is security historically has always been, to use one example, I know it goes much further than security, is such a reactive sport. In other words, the reason why we weren't planning for that eventuality is because we hadn't imagined that it could happen. And I think what you're saying with this precog reference is this notion of seeing the future. It's saying, by the way, the system, you're saying, has the ability to tell me there's a possibility that this pathway could be leveraged. Someone may discover that. Let's discover it as an operations before the bad guys.
I'll give you even a more definitive practical use case. So just think about change control in general. most engineers, operators that are in a network, they spend a ton of time setting up the change. Sometimes weeks in advance. You're trying to work it in a dev environment. Then you have the change window Saturday night at 2 o'clock in the morning, and that takes about an hour.
Yeah.
And then the next day, your fingers crossed that everything comes up online when your customers start showing up in the morning.
It's a big event to fear.
So we've been able to automate the change.
Okay.
But we never really did a good job of as an industry. I don't mean
Right.
Cisco, anybody.
Right.
Never had a good system for automating the pre-change and the post-change. But that's 80% of the time. Is all the validations. So what TJ's referring to is you're literally saying in advance, what's going to break when I push this policy, when I activate this policy? Tell me what's going to break.
Without actually
what
breaking
intent
it.
did I actually change in the network, or what policies did I potentially break? What compliance, am I violating? And now I can do that in advance. I mean, it's amazing stuff.
Now that's perfect. We're going to have to go out to the show floor in just a second, but TJ, you guys have a demonstration, not exactly what you're talking about, but you guys are doing some stuff out on the show floor, and you've got a session tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow at 1:15, the PSO DCN 2555. Why ACI?
PSO DCN.
Half of it is talk, half of it is demonstrations of how easy ACI actually is, the fully automated policy-driven fabric, and we're including an assurance demo in that as well.
That's
and I'm
perfect.
doing a PSO kind of deep dive in this talk track this afternoon, as a matter of fact.
So you're not done. You guys have a lot more work in front of you.
We're just getting started.
But you're ready.
It's no
Okay.
vacation in Barcelona.
All right, TJ, thank you so much. Danny, thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
man.
Thanks,
Guys, want to check that out on the show floor. I believe we've got a very special interactive something or another going on. Let's check and see what that is.
Thank you, Rob. I'm here at the World of Solutions, and one of the most exciting demos we've got at World of the Solutions is the Cyber Escape Room. The idea is that participants or attendees of Cisco Live can actually play this game. They arrive at a crime scene, right? So someone's actually, a company's been breached, and they can help to solve that breach. They can help using ACI and intent-based network to understand what was the problem, find that problem, and quarantine it, and then prevent future breaches. Now, as part of the game, there is a janitor in the room that can then give them hints, right, to the attendees. So I've got Sandra here. And hi, Sandra.
All right. I'll do. All right.
Yes, thank you.
Am I on telly?
Thank you for being with us. So Sandra, tell us about the game and what your role is in the game.
It's not really a game. It's very serious because I've just come in, right, because I'm at the end of my shift and that. And I get in the room and it's a right mess because there's been some criminals broke in. So I've called security right away, of course, and they said there's been a major security breach, and they've told me you lot are coming down here because you're the experts, right? You're the experts at solving stuff and that. So I'm waiting for you. Hurry up. We need to get on with this and sort it out so I can go home and go to bed.
Thank you, Sandra. So yes, please get over here to World of Solutions, to the Cyber Escape Room, and help Sandra with this situation. And we're going to come back here tomorrow on Wednesday, and we're actually going to interview the attendees that are going in and out. And we just had one of the teams that solved the challenge. They're now taking their, social media videos and photos. So do look at our hashtag CLEUR, and you might even find, their pictures. So thank you, and now back to Rob in the studio.
Excellent. Thank you so much. You're killing me over there. I love that stuff. All right, guys, thank you so much for that. Joining me right now in studio, we have John Marshall.
Thank you.
I feel like that's the name of a famous, is that a movie? Is there a name? Is there a John Marshall?
Yeah, Supreme Court Justice, actually. But
that's
I'm
what it
not
was.
related, so.
No relation?
No, not at all.
No relation. Well, I won't ask you to adjudicate on anything you're not comfortable with. But you're a Cisco veteran.
Yes.
You specifically work in our software buying programs. Am I
That's
using
correct,
the right?
yes.
Okay, so here's what I really want to understand, because I can tell you I've never, because I don't have to be involved with that much, I'm not on the customer buying side, but I think I used to be in the field, and I know one of the challenges that we always dealt with, and this was before kind of the evolution of things happening, is that it wasn't always easy to boy, you really had to work tightly with your sales rep and your engineer to figure out all the little bits and bobs and stuff and get a SKU correct to get what you want.
That's
and
right.
then renewals came up and everything was a little bit confusing. It feels like we're really way past that now, but we're still in an evolution. Can you kind of chart how far have we come? What are we doing now as enterprise assurance, I guess that's how we say it? And then, how do we, what's
Well,
important
it's actually
to
not
understand?
related to the application, but,
Okay, gotcha.
so let me put it this way. So from a software strategy, we focus in 3 areas. One, as we always have, which is delivering high value applications to, and offers to the customer. Second, it's about really how consistent buying programs get presented, and I'll talk a lot about that, I think.
want to hear more about that.
And then third, of course, we work with our partners to ensure that the customers can extract the maximum value out of that over the life cycle of the software. Those are really the 3 areas. I think the evolution, because we've been around Cisco a little bit, has been mostly in the area of, and you've seen it piloted at first with security, which is obviously based on software. I mean, the threat protection and threat defense and things that we deliver to our customers is really on a minute-by-minute basis. So that all has to get delivered software out to the platforms that are running it, so on. Collaboration's made that transition because it came out of a legacy world that was really predominantly premise-based, for its communication systems, and is marrying that or bridging that, if you will, to cloud-based, which is where all the things such as the Teams and the WebEx are coming out of. So their evolution was to how to figure out how to get that all lined up in a way that customers could get the flexibility to choose where that was deployed, how they wanted to maximize that capability and high-value applications. And I'd say, just from an offer level standpoint, that's really what's exciting about what's going on right now within our infrastructure. So enterprise networking, data center, et cetera. That's all about that same transition, if you think about it. So what's been legacy or traditionally on-premise, which is going to continue, and how that gets bridged into flexible models that are cloud-based. And so you have, basically, you have a mixed environment, a hybrid environment, if you will, in those. And so essentially the offers have to align to that. And that's what you see being announced, certainly with data center here today.
Well, it feels like, so there's no longer this notion of I've got to go through pages and pages of potential options and figure out what the right mix or match is. I don't want to say, bundle sometimes is perceived as a bad word, but I kind of just mean it in the sense that we've made a lot of things easier where you're not making a trade-off based decision. But it's about a relationship, because now we are recommitting to the customer about how present do we remain. We're not done at the PO at a date and time, right?
Exactly, you're spot on. And I know you came from a field experience, so you've seen this with customers. Our growth in Cisco has been exponential, really getting the engine of the reliability, the scale, et cetera, particularly into our enterprise networks and our data center. What's happening now is that we're trying to simplify that in our relationship, and that's where the enterprise agreement, Cisco's enterprise agreement, comes in. Launched that in May of 2017, so it's just a little over 18 months in the market. Has been hugely successful, literally 100% year-over-year growth in that for the last 2 years. And the reason why is because the customers see how that puts this into a simple way to consume, manage, buy, and take care of their whole enterprise across that. So no longer in that piece by piece buying.
I've got 15 seconds, I apologize.
But get it into something that over time we have a consistent price predictability, scalability, and flexibility.
Perfect. Thank you, John. We're going over to Liz and Tony right now for the showcase.